morning slash afternoon. Benji, cut your hair.
No, just a new style today. I'm glad you noticed.
Say it again.
So just a new style today. I'm glad you noticed.
Oh, look at you. Did you get the approval of Teresa?
No, she hasn't seen it yet. You think she'll
Hmm,
like it?
I'm not sure. I'm sure she'll have an opinion whether she'll share it or not. Would you like us to take a vote, Benji?
You've already embarrassed me enough. This is fine. Thanks.
It's all right. People won't be honest anyway. Samantha, what do you think? Thumbs up or down? Oh, Nicole, there's some honesty coming at you. One a thumbs up, one thumbs down. Todd Martin, what do you think? Got a thumbs up from Todd. Got some friends out there. Let's begin. First off, we will begin with a quiz as usual. Um, I'm going to put three numbers in the chat. Who can tell me what those three numbers represent? This is going to be a little hard. Oh, we're getting votes on the haircut still. Sorry, Benji. Should never have brought it up. 695, 50, and 8. Trying to think of a good hint. You could think of Russian, Spanish, and English. There's your hint. Yes, Karina has got the answer right. Messages in the chat by languages. Russian language, 695. English language, 50. Mostly announcements. Spanish language. Where's all my Spanish friends who talk a lot? 8. So if you want to have deeper learning experiences in the course, my recommendation is get the paid for version of Telegram and join the Russian chat. It will translate for you. It's fantastic. I follow along. Some great debates going on there. And infiltrate the Russian language chat. And then, I don't know, we can start having some good interlanguage debate or something. After last class, like my phone was blowing up for like an hour. It's like, can you all take it down a notch in the Russian speaking chat? But it's great to see that is how you learn. The amount of information, the amount of learning we can do just by class, just by going to the class, I think is limited. We're not taking that outside of class. Uh, then I think we just end up going from class to class to class to class. And we'll kind of acquire some intellectual knowledge, at best, but I don't know. It's hard to make it go deep. If you're not going to like the review class, or discussing it with friends, thinking about it on your own, meditation, and then also, trying to implement it, the parts that are implementable. And it's just some fun time to hang out. You know, it's like going to a movie twice a week, like Dharma movie twice a week. Uh, over the long run, I think it will change your life slowly, but you know, maybe too slowly. Like we really have to listen. What's the three trainings? Listening, contemplating, meditating. Go to class, listen to it, hear the teachings, think about them, debate them, meditate on them. I think the third one is like implementing it. Really, it's like thinking about whether it's worthwhile and then learning through implementation, doing it. Cool. Where are we at? We are one class behind. That's a problem. And we didn't finish last class. That's another problem. And Karina asked me to finish last class. So she's the boss. So we shall finish last class. Karina, I know you're a little under the weather, sick. We hope you heal up fast. Okay. Last class, we skipped a proof of emptiness called one or many. It was funny. So we're in ACI 16. We're reviewing ACI courses 1 to 5. And so we were in course 2, Buddhist Refuge. And in that class, Geshe was, when he originally taught it, said people were complaining, like, class is too hard, class is too hard. And then he said, I'll teach an easier class. And whenever Geshe Michael says, I'm going to teach an easier class, or I'm going to teach a short class, that's when you have to be prepared for a long class and a hard class and a really good class. Like that's when I'm like, okay, sneak off, get some coffee, get ready for more notes. And that's what he did. He taught, I think, the hardest class. And one of the proofs was one or many. And so when we look at proofs of emptiness, there's a there's 1,000, right? There's a lot of proofs of emptiness. And we should be familiar with, I think we should like really familiar with, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. And then I kind of have our favorite one that we can use quickly. Like I'm starting to get pissed off, starting to be irritated. It's like we're in a gunfight and we need to like pull out a gun really quickly. Right. And it's like, what's the emptiness meditation that you're going to pull out in the gunfight to fight your afflictions? So we need, I think, like some sort of, Master Shantideva patience quote floating through our mind, or an emptiness meditation that we like, that we know, and that we can use quickly in the gunfight against negative thoughts, negative emotions. Benji, I was in yoga class yesterday, and I had my hands like this in Warrior One, and the teacher said, "I know you're American and from the States, but we don't allow guns in class." And it was like, put your hands like this. I was so offended. I'm the American. Anyway, I thought it was kind of cute. So one of the proofs is one or many, and it's the one that I like a lot. It's something that I can think of very quickly. I've meditated on it a lot, and let's go over it. And there's two ways. I've really, really struggled with this meditation for a long time because the way it's presented is really often, I think, confusing. And so there's a way that I've come to relate to it that is different than the classical presentation. So I'm going to do the way that I learned it through hours and hours on a debate ground. And then we'll go through the classical presentation. Okay. So if we talk about, if I said, what's in my hand? We said a cup. Okay, it's a cup. Or if I said, like, how many things are in my hand? How many things are in my hand? Is it one thing or many things? What would you say? You could say, well, I don't know. For me, it feels like one thing. It's one cup. Like if I said how many cups are in my hand, it's one. There's one thing in my hand. It's one. But then there are it's the same as the mala we looked at in the first class, I think. There's more than one thing in my hand. There's a handle, there's a top of a cup, there's a bottom of a cup, there's the coffee inside the cup. A lot of people saying one cup, many parts. Sort of. Like you could say that, but a part is a thing. It's also a whole. So if it was self-existently one thing, what would that mean? If this existed self-existently as one thing, what would that mean? It didn't change. You couldn't add to it. Mm, you couldn't add to it or take from it. I like that answer. It means you couldn't see it as many things. Or if you did, you'd be wrong, right? This was self-existently one thing. If the one thingness didn't depend on anything, which is what a self-existent thing is, doesn't depend on anything. If you said there's many things in my hand, you'd be wrong because it doesn't depend on perspective. If it was a self-existent one thing, and you're like, no, no, there's many things. There's a handle, there's a top, there's a bottom. Yep, there's still coffee. Those are many things. If you said many, you'd be wrong. This was self-existently one thing. You couldn't see it as many things. And if you did, you would just be wrong. In the same way that if a pen was a self-existent pen, a dog would be wrong. The dog chewed on it and thought of it as something else. The dog would be wrong. You're chewing on a pen. The dog is chewing on a pen. From the dog's perspective, the dog is chewing on a pen. If it was self-existently many things, we couldn't see it as a single thing. So if this self-existently existed as many things, there's paint, there's color, there's reds, there's blues, there's choose love, there's letters. How many letters are on the cup? There's a lot of them. So you can't see it as one thing. Obviously, there's many things. If it was self-existently many things, clearly there's many things. How many letters? There's many of them. If it was self-existently many things, you could never answer how many things are in my hand and come up with the answer one. You'd be wrong because the oneness or the manyness would be imbued as a quality of the object. It wouldn't depend on how you choose to look at it. And that's it. If we can see this thing as one or many, then it's empty of being self-existently one or many things. Right? If we can see it as one thing or many things, then it can't be self-existently one or self-existently many. And so we see that our mind organizes cup into one thing or many things as a result of scenes. And that's it. And that applies to every single thing in the universe. We we just tie neat little boundaries around things. We create things. And then we forget that we're the one that created them. Whether that's a car or a tree. Think about looking at a landscape. Out of all of the data that we see, we isolate a certain shape, certain colors, and we make that a thing. We make it a thing. And then we forget that we're the one that made it into the thing. Unfair person. That's a thing we made. We've we've taken that data and organized it in a way into a thing. And that's the true of every single thing in the universe. So when we say nothing exists, it's an interesting statement. Like no thing exists because things are something that we create. There's no thing that exists outside of our creation of it. Cool? I think so. Let's talk about a more classical presentation of it. And it gets into, oh, it's going to take a while. Mm, we'll do the first half of of the flow of the classical proof. And it gets into an idea of how something can really exist. And when Chetzenkopf says really exist, he means self-existent. So for something to exist self-existently, that would be to really exist. And so for something to really exist self-existently, it must exist self-existently as one thing or self-existently as many things. Okay? For something to exist self-existently, it must exist as a self-existent one thing or as a self-existent many things, multiples of one. There's only two choices. So it's a bit of a weird proof. You're like, look, if this self-existent thing existed, it would either have to exist this way as one or this way as many. And it's like, why am I proving how a self-existent thing would exist? I don't believe in them. Like, why are we breaking our brains on how a self-existent thing exists? And I think it gets back to what we were talking about last class, which is being super clear about agaksha. Yeah, you have to identify what a self-existent thing would be like in order to get rid of that wrong idea. So then the proof goes like this. If it's impossible to exist self-existently as one thing, then it would be impossible to exist self-existently as many things. if we can prove the cup doesn't exist as a self-existent one, then it could never be self-existently multiples of one. If you prove one doesn't exist, you can prove multiples of one doesn't exist, right? So we're proving a self-existent, there can't be a self-existent unitary thing. And if we can do that, you couldn't have multiples of that thing. So the proof, so we don't have to disprove something could be self-existently many. We just have to prove something can't be self-existently one. And then, unfortunately, Jetson Kappa uses kind of an insane example. He uses the three knowledges, which is, I think, a Hinayana view of emptiness, a Mahayana view of emptiness, and a Buddhist view of emptiness, something like that. I didn't look it up. But he says, look, the three knowledges aren't one thing because they have parts. So if you can prove something has parts, it can't be self-existently one. Make sense? If you can prove something has parts, it can't be self-existently one thing. And if we can prove something can't be self-existently one thing, obviously it can't be self-existently many things, because many things are multiples of one thing. Translators, how we doing? What a nightmare. So then instead of proving that the three knowledges have parts, the in the text they prove that every single thing in the world has parts. Everything existing thing has parts. So if you prove every existing thing in the world has parts, then obviously the three knowledges has parts. And if all things have parts, nothing could be self-existently one, and then nothing could be self-existently many, and then nothing could be self-existent, right? So if you could prove all things in the universe have parts, you could prove things couldn't be, you could prove therefore things couldn't be self-existently many, and then you would have proved that things can't be self-existent. Why would you want to prove that? Yeah, Samantha said nothing is fixed and can change. I think that's getting there. What's the implication that nothing is fixed and can change? Megan says, if nothing can be self-existent, all things are a projection. I think that's getting closer. We can change, the world can change. How? All things are projection, meaning what? What's the so close, Laura? All things come from seeds. We change our seeds. I mean, it's getting there. It means that morality can change our world. Like the reason to do all of that mental gymnastics, hopefully the conclusion we arrive at is morality can change my world. And really, it's the only way. And then we would be insane not to change how we live our life, right? Like if we could really convince ourselves of those proofs and the implications of those proofs, we'd be put into a position to see the insanity of hurting people or the beauty of becoming more selfless and just change how we live. Like all of that intellectual one or many, it should kick us out into seeing that, it really does boil down to kindness and loving each other. And that sounds like, you know, every single pop song. Love is all there is. But I remember leaving 3 year retreat, and that was kind of my conclusion. After 3 years of meditation, it really is. Ram Dass was asked the same question at the end of his life. You've been doing this for 50 years, 60 years, studied all of the world religions. You've talked with all of the great spiritual leaders. And they're like, what's the secret? What have you learned? And he said, it's a little bit embarrassing that it's not more complicated, that I don't have a more complicated answer. But he's like, it's all about just being more kind. The world is just about, the whole point is just about being more kind. He's like, that's it. The sum total of my 60 years of studying the world religions and philosophies, be a little more kind. And that seems so obvious. And like to have to get that through breaking our brain on philosophy, you know, might seem strange, but that should, if we do the philosophy and don't reach that conclusion, then we didn't We weren't complete in our philosophy. The conclude we have to get to that conclusion. Shouldn't be like, oh, okay, I get it. Things are not self-existent. Things are empty. That's not the conclusion. The conclusion, oh, is I can change my world. And that happens by being more kind. So we're not going to go through, the whole proof of everything have parts, changing things, unchanging things. But I think it's in course 2. It's a fun exercise. If we can prove all existing things have parts, we can prove they aren't self-existent. They aren't self-existently one, and they can't be self-existently many. And then they can't be self-existent. So who cares? So be more kind, and we can change our world. So within that paradigm, you could ask, what are the parts of emptiness? And if you were Spanish speaking and wanted to find someone to debate, you could get the paid for version of Telegram. You could join the Russian speaking chat. You could debate, what are the parts of emptiness? And if someone said, well, there's the emptiness of the pot and then the emptiness of the pen, and those are the parts of emptiness, you could say, okay, but what are the parts of the emptiness of the cup? And that would be a fun debate. Don't accept that the parts of emptiness are the parts of the emptiness of the cup, the emptiness of the table, and that makes up the parts of emptiness. Don't accept that as an answer in your debate. What are the parts of the emptiness of the cup? Don't accept, well, the parts of the handle, the part of the bottom, the top parts of the top. Okay, well, what's the parts of the emptiness of the handle? All right, let's do the class we're supposed to be doing. We are on, theoretically, ACI 3, which is the course on meditation. PPT, please. ACI 3, we have a vote for my favorite course. I agree. While we're at it, everyone could chat in their favorite course. Take a break, take a stretch. Put in the chat, what's your favorite course? If you say course 15, you are correct. Oh, 14 was good too. Did someone say anyone but 13? Course 14. Oh, someone actually did say 13. All right. The Todd Martin, course 11. Beautiful course. When we look at course 3, Um, it's a course on meditation. It's a lot of lists. It's a lot of framework. Um, it gives a really beautiful overview of the kinds of meditation, the framework of meditation. And it's a really beautiful entry into the world of meditation. And so we'll go over some of that framework. Let's go to the next slide. I think this is the 5 parts of the ACI 3. So this is what one would study if they studied ACI 3. And we'll go over some of these today. Take a screenshot, fill in your homework. Next slide. Mm, that's a great picture of our friend Powell, YSI teacher, um, demonstrating meditation posture. These are the preliminaries to meditation. We're not going to go through them all in depth. Let's talk about a little bit of them though. Mm, First one I think is really interesting. So these are preliminaries mostly to get ready for a meditation session. There are other ways to get into meditation. Um, we'll look at this one first. Get up, clean your room, create a sacred place. I love that instruction. Clean your room. Why? The first thing is it wakes you up. So especially in retreat, when we're meditating a lot, or just early in the morning, it's just can be tired. So it doesn't matter if the house needs cleaning. 3 retreat, my house never needed cleaning. It just doesn't get dirty. It's great. But I'd still get up and sweep every day. And it wakes the mind up a little bit. And it also creates a routine. Like I would get up and had a routine. And a lot of times it was like 4:30 in the morning and I was just really tired. And it'd be, I don't want to do yoga today. But I'd had such a, I never missed yoga in retreat for 3.5 years. I took one day a week off. And there's lots of times that I I would just I don't want to do yoga. And it's like, okay, I'll just sweep. I'll just start my routine by sweeping. And the next thing I knew, I'd be, halfway through Surya Namaskar bees because I had just kind of spaced out. The routine was so strong that I could sleepwalk my way into the practice. And so we have a routine. It kind of becomes like Pavlov's dog. Like you ring the bell and give the dog dinner every day at the same time. Does that example work? If we do something every day at the same time, we just get accustomed to it, and we can really develop that habit. So get up, clean, have a routine, create a sacred space, like have a meditation space that the mind is attracted to. Like I want to go there and hang out. Like it's not cluttered. There's nothing that reminds me of work. There's nothing that is pulling me away. The things that are in my meditation space uplift my mind. And so you bring things that are special into that space, create an altar maybe, things that uplift the mind. And then it eventually gets, junked up with stuff, clear it out, start again. And we're trying to create a space where we're transitioning from the mundane to the extraordinary, from the normal to the not normal. So we transform a space so that we can transform our mind. So that could be classically representations of body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. Could be setting out water bowls. It could be lighting incense, like that simple act of associating something that transforms the space into something sacred. And then like making it like if you want special people to come to your house, you make it special. Like if you have a special friend or friends coming over for dinner, you clean up, you get some nice flowers, maybe have a candle going or special music or decorations. Someone's birthday party. You you want it to be special for them. So if you want special people to show up, you need to make that space special. And that's the first step of meditation. Having a cool, sacred space. I want to be there. Having a routine. And then that routine kind of wakes us up, puts us in that mood, and helps create that habit. Maybe it's water bowls. Maybe it's making coffee. All right, next slide. So on these 6 steps, let's go back for a sec. Um, Create the space, make it nice. Go for refuge, I think, is really why are we doing what we're doing? Kind of getting firm in our motivation. Hopefully, part of that motivation is in a world where you can be anything and be kind. In a traditional Tibetan paradigm, you would visualize a teacher and then go through the 7 limb prayer. Mm, and that's the next slide. The 7 ingredients. Thank you, Sarah, for making our slides fun. Those are the 7 ingredients. Mm. And then Bowing down means like thinking of a good quality of the person that you're trying to, the person that you, and it doesn't have to be a person, like the image or the paradigm or the personification of the qualities we want to develop. So that could take form in a person that we know, that could take form in like an ideal of a person, or like an image of a Buddha or something like that. And then we go through those steps. Uh, my experience is, to make it very real and personable. Like you're really there hanging out with somebody. And you're just having like a real conversation with them. Um, yeah, let's go on to the next slide. Mhm. So these are the 6 conditions for meditation. Um, and these are retreat related. So this is in the context of a meditation retreat, but we can apply that to our life. They're mostly self-explanatory. And they kind of show us really the essence is if you want to get good at meditation, we need to make it a priority, period. It's kind of what this, if we could condense all of these points, 6 conditions for a good meditation lifestyle, it just comes down to we have to make it a priority, like being excellent at anything. So a conducive place. Uh, I live in a big city. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and somebody asked them, how long should you meditate? If you want to get good at meditation, how long do I need to meditate for? And one of the things that he said I thought was cool was the busier, noisier place you live, busier and noisier your lifestyle is, the more you need to meditate. Which for some reason I thought was so obvious that I'd never connected. Because I've lived in a very isolated, remote areas, and life gets real simple. And it's like, it's just more of we can be in a more meditative lifestyle by living much more simply. A city is not simple. So to attain that same meditative state of mind in a busy world, we need to meditate more, not less. So conducive place. Mm, I think a big part of a conducive place is having support, like having a community that reminds me of the importance of that in my life, that talks about those things that I think are important, that, friends that also are interested in retreat, that say, hey, do you want to go to meditation class instead of exclusively, hey, do you want to go to the baseball game, the movie? Friends that are excited about, you know, excited about a spiritual life. And then it doesn't matter if it's New York or Sedona or Diamond Mountain. All of those places can be conducive, more or less. Live simply, don't need many things. That's not about amount of things. That's about a mind state. I've given up all of my possessions twice in my life. And it doesn't mean you don't think of things. Like in 3 retreat, I basically took books. That was it. That's all I had. Much gave everything else away. But you have to give up needing things also, because you can be in retreat with a lot of things or a few things, but the mind's still thinking of stuff that I really need. Right? And as a person caretaking retreat, we have to protect retreaters from this state of mind when they send out notes of being like, I don't know, I heard of somebody in retreat that sent out a note to a caretaker that said, I really need a hockey stick. It's important for me to have a hockey stick in retreat. And, as a retreat caretaker, you have to sometimes conveniently lose notes or just be very slow to respond so that people don't continuously need the next thing. But there's always another thing. Um, that said, I did find a hockey stick very useful in retreat. There was a lot less rocks on the path post hockey stick. What's next? Mm, yeah, let's go to the next one. 8-point posture. Um, Pretty sure people are familiar with this. It's called the posture of Vairochana. Vairochana. So Vairochana is the Buddha of appearances. And the Buddha of appearances is the Buddha that shows up perfectly, like the perfect form. You take the perfect form and show up exactly how people need you in their life. So the posture of Vairochana is to take on the most perfect form and show up in the most perfect way for people. And I think that's the essence of the 8-point posture. Like, if we could just think of that when we sit down as the Buddha of appearances. like show up perfectly for your meditation. Embody the perfect being, in your formal sitting practice. And then as you get up as the perfect being, walking across the room as the being that perfectly shows up in the most perfect way for all beings. And we try to do that, embrace that, be the perfect Buddha of appearances. Then we wouldn't really need to remember the 8 points. I don't think. Just do that. Just embody that feeling, that attitude. And then you would sit with dignity and in the way that would support your practice the most, right? Like we probably, if we tried to do that, we probably wouldn't slouch in meditation. I believe we would just kind of find the position that supports the meditation the best. And so there's 8 ideas of what that might look like, what that might look like. Sit up straight, have your shoulders level. Um, I think that's really good advice. I find it really good sometimes to, especially now that we are on Zoom all the time in meditation, just to kind of have a peek at our posture and to see how level it is. And it is, take a look at your next meditation class and see how many people have one shoulder raised. And I suggest it's about a third of the class usually. And a simple, even if you don't notice it, if you start meditating a long period of time, that little bit of asymmetry can lead to a lot of muscle tension and back pain. And in 3 retreat, I had that. And I was just getting a lot of pain in the middle of my upper back. And I went to somebody in our break and I said, she was a acupuncturist, among other things. And she said, well, let me see how you sit in meditation. And so I sat. She's like, oh, one of your shoulders is lower. And she said, try to lift the middle of your chest up. And then the shoulders become level. So it's not about manipulating the shoulders. For me, it wasn't. She's like, lift your chest up. And then we went back into retreat, and my pain went away immediately. So it was a very slight imbalance that was preventing me from being able to meditate. And she fixed it by getting me aware of that little imbalance in my shoulders. Mm, so find a position that supports our practice. Um, don't get I hear teachers say, get in position and don't move. Just do not move. And I think there's some value to that for not allowing the mind to just be restless or the body to be restless as a reflection of a mind that's restless. But there's no point sitting there incredibly stressed out, trying not to move. It's not a, I don't think it works. You know, the, when the body is sitting in a posture, some muscles are holding the body in that posture, and those muscles will get tired. And then there's times when moving is going to help, my personal opinion, and then move. And then we can, strengthen those muscles to be able to meditate longer and longer. And we can sit in meditation for an hour without moving. You know, we can get to that place also. But as we journey to that place, I don't think there's value in absolutely refusing to move and just sitting in discomfort. I don't think that's the way to get to a place where we can meditate for an hour without moving. My hot take. Next slide. Anyone know this cartoon character? I didn't either. Apparently, something from Sarah. What's the cartoon character's name? The Fix-It person? This is Fix-It Felix. So these are the problems of meditation. We can fix it. There is a paradigm in meditation, 5 problems, 8 antidotes to those 5 problems, resulting in 9 levels of meditation. Those that go to Practice Club will be familiar with these. Cueing the Practice Club slide. Gene and Kelly, Wreck-It Ralph. That's new to me. So 5 problems, 8 antidotes, 9 levels. That's what we study at the Practice Club, specifically at the Wednesday Mind Lab. So ACI 3 is a great course. It gives a framework. It gives us like an overview and a structure, and it lacks detail. We need way, way, way more than you'll find in ACI 3 to progress in meditation. And it's essential to understand the 5 problems, 8 antidotes, and 9 levels. Because if we meditate and we don't know what level we're on, or the common problems at that level, the solutions to that level, and how to get to the next level, we're totally wasting our time in developing shamatha. It'd be very, very difficult to progress. It'd be very inefficient. It'd be like I want to drive from, I don't know, from New York to Miami, and I don't know how to go there. So I'm just going to drive. And if I drive more, I will get there. And I think that's how a lot of people approach meditation. That I I'm just gonna somewhere in the back of our mind, we think we'll get better just by doing it more. And I think that's a really, I definitely tried that and it did not work. In fact, I got worse. I became a worse meditator after years of meditating because I trained my mind in all sorts of bad habits and that were very difficult to undo. And it's frustrating. I know many, many people that have meditated for years and years and years and don't feel like they've gotten better and kind of just give up. You know, they still meditate, but they've given up. It's just something they do because they're supposed to. You know, it's just something that I'm supposed to do every day. I cross it off. I need to do it to see emptiness directly, but I don't really think I'll get shamatha. Maybe next life. And it's frustrating. And to be blunt, it will continue to be frustrating if we don't understand how to progress along the paths. And studying ACI 3 is a great start. And we need more than ACI 3. We need to find a teacher that understands, ideally that has been to the end of those 9 levels that can take us through them. So we have to have a vision of how to progress. We have to understand where we're going, how to get there, to get to that destination. Otherwise, we're just driving, and honestly, we could be driving in the wrong direction. So when I started meditating, I was told meditate for an hour, and that's what I did. And I remember meditating with my teacher and just instantly falling asleep in class. And he was like, are you tired? And I was like, no, not at all. Did you sleep last night? Slept great. And he's like, oh, you've just trained your mind in dullness. Every time you meditate now, you you immediately get dull. You've trained your mind in dullness. And he made me stand up when I meditate. We're in class, and I'm the one standing up at the back. And he made me do a lot of walking meditation and trained me properly. Um, and it took many, many, many months to untrain the bad habits that I had, just to get back to starting. Months and months and months, just to get rid of the bad habits that I had developed because I didn't know what I was doing. So, we need to, if we can ever, people meditate for a lot of reasons. We can meditate to relax, can meditate to review what we study. And if that's what people want to meditate for, that's great. Tons of benefit. If we want to meditate to develop single point of concentration, if we want to meditate to develop shamatha, if that's the goal, that's different. That requires understanding the process and prioritizing it. And really, it's going to take work. So anyway, one place that you can hopefully find those things is in practice club. And we meet Wednesdays for something called Mind Lab. Part of that practice club, we also meet on Monday and practice Hatha Yoga. So not just doing asana, but understanding Hatha Yoga is a much bigger framework. And so there's a community of people getting together, sharing in the joy of practice and having a culture of not just talking about it. This idea started by Benji saying, we talk about these things a lot. Do we really do them? You know, are we an organization, YSI, that just talks the talk, or do we actually do it? You know, do we just hold classes where we talk about everyone should meditate, everyone should do yoga? Mm, or are we an organization that actually practices together? So that was the origins of Practice Club. So Monday and Wednesday, Russian and English, and what we're trying to create, where we are creating a community of people that are interested in um, progressing on the stages of meditation and understanding Hatha Yoga. Cool. Let's go back to the slides. Mm, First problem of meditation. I think a lot of people know first problem in Tibetan, lay low. Geshe teaches it a lot. Lay low sounds like laziness, not wanting to meditate. And that makes a lot of sense. Every single person who has tried to have a meditation practice has encountered this problem of waking up and being like, I do not want to meditate. And then we have problem one of meditation. And I've been thinking a lot about that problem as I'm familiar with it. And I think it's become more and more clear to me that lay low is much bigger than waking up and not wanting to meditate. That's like a small instance of laziness. Laziness is a much bigger problem than I don't want to meditate. And I think we need a better word for it than laziness. I don't think it really captures the problem. I think it's more just not prioritizing meditation. We have an idea of, I want to meditate or I should meditate. And then we reflect back on our last couple weeks and we haven't done it as much as our ideal would be. I want to meditate 3 times a week. And then look back on the last month and how many times did we do that? I want to meditate 6 times a week. Are we living up to that? And if not, why not? And I think when I examine my life, it's been not laziness like I don't want to get up. It's a lack of following through on the priorities I've established for myself. My priority is meditation is important. I want to do it. And then not following through. And I think it's like in my day, I have to get up, make coffee, then I don't know, maybe people have to feed their kids or I got to check in with work. And then from, 8 until 8:30, I can meditate. And so we're putting our meditation schedule into our life schedule. There's a slot here from 8 till 8:30 that I can meditate. And then we get a work email that takes priority. I've got a meeting or something came up or somebody called to go for a coffee. It's like, that's okay. I also have a break at 4. I can meditate. I'll just put it off. I can meditate 4 till 4:30. And then at 4 o'clock, the meeting runs late, or we've just eaten, or something comes. It's okay. I can meditate this evening. And we're trying to put our meditation schedule into our life. I can fit my meditation into my life. And when I've been successful in progressing in meditation, it's been the opposite. I meditate from 7 until 8, period. And my life needs to fit around that. Here's my spiritual life, you know, my study, my yoga, my meditation. And I do these at that time, and the rest of my world has to fit around those things. And from, 10 or 12 years when I was studying at Diamond Mountain, it meant, you know, many jobs I had to give up or not take because it didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do spiritually. And so there's this idea of laziness being not wanting to meditate, but I think it's more these are the priorities. And I'm either going to fit them into my life or I'm going to fit my life into my practice. And then I think that's very helpful. And not separating life from practice. Right? These things of feeding the kid and the job and the recreation, it's not like those things aren't also these things. Right? Kids, jobs, fun, practice, meditation, study, yoga. We have to stop distinguishing these things are practice, these things are life. Those are also part of the spiritual life. You see? Hope that made sense. So then there's some traditional antidotes to this thing called laziness. Mm. Thinking about what we hope to get out of meditation. Like, why, what do I hope to achieve? I think it will make me more kind, or I think it will make me more capable of dealing with my emotional world. I think it will allow me to be more efficient in work. I think it will allow me to have a greater understanding of emptiness. I think it will make me more kind, whatever. And then being clear on that, and then like, oh, I want that. That sounds great. I want that. And if we develop that and we want that, then we can what will follow is we'll put some effort into it. And then once that effort goes into that thing, we'll start to experience some results, ideally. And the point four here is physical and mental pleasure. And in the Tibetan, it's Xinjiang. And it is, Geshe talks about a state of effortlessness. Like if you were to be a basketball player and you just shot free throws tens of thousands of times, just shot a basketball over and over and over and over and over, it would become really easy, really automatic. And when we have deeper states of meditation, it becomes like that. We can sit down in meditation and access those deeper states more easily, and the physical body just it's that Xinjiang that allows us to sit in meditation for a long period of time. Like when we attain those states of meditation, feels like the prana in the body is flowing properly, and that allows us to sit without needing to move. It's not like we have to try to sit still or comfortably. It just is comfortable. It's very pleasant, and the mind is very happy and joyful. And at that point, it's related in the, in this list, it's like that's related to developing a habit. Like then the habit is solid. Cool. We didn't get super far through the stages. We got through problem one, in theory. Might be a good time to, you know, think about this slide or these ideas and, make some goals. We're now in a meditation course, and there can be some, time to maybe reset or recommit or revision. Okay, what do I want from my meditation practice? Well, for the next week, when I'm studying meditation, I'm going to particularly work on laziness. I will check out Practice Club, or I'm going to open that book on meditation that I haven't looked at for a while, recommit to practice. I'm going to review the 9 stages, something like that. So it's not just an intellectual exercise. We covered one problem, laziness. If you have that problem, let's try to deal with it. We just reviewed it. Maybe homework, the most important homework we could do would be committing to, what's my vision for what I want my practice to be? What's preventing me? And over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm going to try to redevelop that habit. That would be good homework, along with proving all things in the universe have parts. What's the parts of the emptiness of the cup? Cool. Translators, thank you. Um, Rena, thank you. Hope you feel better. We haven't been leaving times for Q&A. It's always it's always the goal for me to have Q&A, and there's just a lot of content. That said, if you do want to ask questions, there are 3 chats. There's an English chat. There's theoretically a Spanish chat. You could double the amount of messages in the Spanish chat easily and discuss and debate these things. Or you can join the Russian chat, which is filled with debates and activity, the Russian speaking chat. So, um, we're in a course, use the time, try to immerse. There's lots of courses and lots of classes, and we can take this as a course to check off the spreadsheet. We've done course 16, send it to the ACI home office, get the credit. Then we would be eligible for Tantra, right? Maybe there's more to it than, maybe there's more to Tantra than that. Checking a box. I suspect so. Cool. And, if you do have specific questions, you can throw them in the chat, and collectively, I'm sure there's answers. And see you on Tuesday. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Earle. Thank you, everyone. See you on Tuesday.
Благодарю.
Thank you.